Hello and welcome back to the KCC channel. I'm Rob and I hope you are having a wonderful day today. Today we're jumping into some malicious compliance. Before we start, if you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button. It's completely free and you can always change your mind later. But if you stay, I might send you my autograph in the mail. You know, because that's worth something, right? Alright, our first story today comes to us from NOVAEvilCapitalist. Car dealer tells me I shouldn't waste my time and go to a competing dealer because they also won't give me the price they listed on their website. Let's jump right in. This took place 8 years ago when I was buying my first new car. Not just a new to me car. I spent a good amount of time researching the options available, both in terms of other models from other manufacturers and option packages on the car in which I was most interested, so I knew exactly what I wanted coming in the door. In 2014, car dealer websites hadn't quite gotten to the level of borderline bait and switch trickery you see these days. So if a dealer's website said they had a particular car on the lot at a particular price, they almost certainly did. There were several in the region that matched what I was looking for, one specifically at my existing dealership. This wasn't a smaller dealership, it was one of the largest in the Northern Virginia area for this particular brand. I had had a reasonably good experience with their service department overall and figured I'd give their sales department a chance to shine. That was my first mistake. I showed up on a Wednesday after work. It was early June, so with the mercury being in the upper 90s, I was dressed in a comfortable but still very presentable combination of a polo shirt and khaki shorts. When I entered the sales side of the dealership, I could see what appeared to be all the salespeople in a conference room laughing and joking while taking scissors to the tie of one of the men present. Later, I found out that was a rite of passage after making your first sale. I waited around for a minute or two as the conference room had glass walls, and it would be impossible not to notice me, as I'm not exactly a small fellow at 6 feet 6 inches tall. When no one came out to greet me, I went up to the receptionist's desk and said, "Hi, I'm interested in model of car, and there's one in stock I'd like to see." Her response, without even looking up from her phone, was, "Okay." I stood there for another 20 seconds or so, and then politely asked, "Would someone be able to show me that car?" This finally prompted her to look up from her phone. She looked me up and down, scoffed a bit, and said she'd go get someone. I was willing to give them the benefit of the doubt, hoping that things would turn around. That was my second mistake. The receptionist came back with what looked like the youngest, most wet behind the ears salesperson she could find, as evidently I wasn't worth the time of the more experienced folk. I explained that I was interested in a car that their website said they had in stock, and provided him with the printout showing the stock number, price, and all other pertinent details. It took him a while to find the car on the lot, but after a brief test drive, I knew it was what I wanted and began the sales process. I had a trade-in, which had been primarily serviced by them, and for which I already had a written offer from CarMax, so I knew how much I should receive for it. He quoted me just over half of that figure. When I pointed out that I could get several thousand more by taking it to the CarMax just up the road, and had a written offer from them for that specific amount, he went and got his sales manager, who offered to drive me there and pick me up afterwards, but that they wouldn't match what CarMax offered. I was a bit surprised that they didn't want a nice used car to sell for themselves, 6 years old, top of the line, reasonable mileage, and serviced by them specifically, but again, cut them more slack than they deserved. When we got to price, things really fell apart. He quoted me a price that was several $1,000s higher than what they displayed on their website. When I showed him the printout again with a noticeably lower price, he looked to the sales manager for guidance. The sales manager immediately took the line that the price listed includes all available rebates and special offers, and you may not qualify for all of them. I was now frustrated and showed them printouts from other dealers in the area that had a similar price shown, and said that if they weren't willing to honor the price listed on their website, I'd just go to the next closest dealer that had that model in stock at that price. His response sealed the deal for me. "Go ahead, waste your time and go to competing dealership. We won't hold it against you when you come back here." I told them, "Okay, thank you for your time. I'll go to the competing dealership," and got up to leave. No one stopped me, and the receptionist said nothing as I walked past her out to the parking lot to drive to the other dealership. When I got to the competing dealership, it was already around 8 p.m. as I had spent a fair amount of time at the first dealership, and Northern Virginia traffic has never been known for being reasonable. I had a salesperson approach me immediately upon entering the dealership, and I explained I've just come from first dealership and want to buy particular model of car. Both of you have that car in stock with the options I want. They wouldn't give it to me at the price shown on their website. If you will, I'm ready to sign on the dotted line right now. The salesperson immediately took me to his office, verified that they had the car, and confirmed that yes, the price on their website was accurate, and I could walk out the door with that price. We started the process, and when we got to trade-in, I further explained how the other dealership tried to lowball me on the trade. He said if I could produce a written offer from CarMax for the price I mentioned, they would match it. I gave him that paperwork, and without any further discussion, he agreed that they would match that, and we moved on to financing. I hadn't gotten this far with the other dealer, but I had already lined up financing through my credit union. He asked if I'd be willing to see if his F&I guy could match or beat that figure. I agreed to let him try, and he came back with a rate that was 50 basis points lower. Needless to say, I was already very happy with these people, but that definitely sealed the deal. Right as I was finishing the paperwork, the salesperson from the first dealer texted me to ask if they would give me the car at that price. I responded back that they would, and I was finishing up the paperwork at that very moment. He immediately tried to call me, then texted me saying he'd give it to me for $500 less. I responded to his text stating that I'd already signed the paperwork and he had lost the sale. Once the paperwork was complete, the exceptionally pleasant and helpful salesperson at my new dealership spent an additional half hour after the dealership had closed for the night running me through some of the features of the car and showing me how the infotainment system worked. This was completely above and beyond what I expected, as I thought I'd just be reading the 300-page user manual to figure it out on my own. I drove home that night with my shiny new car, a very happy camper. The next day, I decided to rub a little salt in the wounds of the first dealership, so I drove there straight from the office. For context, I work in the banking industry, and at that point, it was still very much business formal dress. I showed up in my suit with my briefcase and had people falling all over themselves trying to help me, including the receptionist who clearly remembered who I was midway through me asking for the particular salesperson I dealt with the prior day. She offered me a seat and asked if I wanted some coffee while she went to get him, and I politely said, "No, thank you, I won't be here long." She somewhat quietly, sheepishly responded that she'd be back with that salesperson very shortly. There was a couple in the waiting area who seemed a bit displeased that they'd been waiting for a salesperson, but I got one the moment I walked in the door. No more than a minute later, the salesperson and his manager came out. The salesperson recognized me and with a look of defeat on his face, shook my hand and asked how I was today. Before I had a chance to respond, the sales manager spoke up to introduce himself as if I hadn't spent an hour and a half with him the previous day. After I reminded him that I was there yesterday and he had said it would be a waste of time to go to the competing dealer because they'd never give me the car I wanted at the price shown on their website, his demeanor very quickly pivoted back to the snotty, insolent person I dealt with the previous day. He proceeded to ask, "Well, did they?" with a bit of a sneer. I said nothing, but turned to the side and clicked the remote for my new car so the horn would give a few chirps. He said, "Good for you," in a rather curt tone and walked away, leaving the poor salesperson on his own. I shook that salesperson's hand, thanked him for his time, and turned around to leave. The receptionist spoke up as I walked past her and asked in a rather chipper voice if I needed any further assistance. I politely responded that no, the other dealership had provided me exactly what I needed, and I was all set. To make things just that little bit better, as I passed the couple sitting in the waiting area, I saw them exchange looks with each other that seemed to say, perhaps we should go to the dealer he mentioned. I said nothing further and walked out of the building wearing the smile of a winner. I think OP could have gotten back at their original dealership even more if they'd mentioned to the sales manager that they're not going to bring their car there for maintenance anymore as well. That's where the dealership really makes their money, and if you don't bring your car in there, that's probably the best way to hurt them. On the way out, when the other couple said that maybe they should go to the dealership that OP went to, OP should have told them about the salesperson they worked with at that other dealership. That would have been a huge compliment for that salesperson. And it might have even gotten OP a kickback of some sort for sending that sale to them. Our next story today comes to us from DybayFlaw. What would a man know? Let's jump right in. Many moons ago, I worked in a department store. It was a weekend contract gig while I was at university. It had departments for a variety of things. And for no particular reason, I ended up in the basement on homewares. No grumbles from me. Money, even if it is minimum wage, is money. Work was easy and my team was awesome. First week there, I recall someone saying, "Retail would be great if it wasn't for the customers." I was saddened. What a morose mentality to have for the place you spend most of your waking week. It took me a few years to figure out it was 100% true. The amazing customers absolutely do not outnumber or overshadow the monsters. One thing in retail I didn't realize was how amazingly helpful a good memory is. And believe me, back then especially, I had a phenomenal memory. We had to type in dissection codes and prices into a printer for barcodes and place them on stock. I very quickly got a reputation. See, most people would remember their specialty codes. They were 15 digits long. That is still good. A few seasoned, withered husks with manager name tags would remember a few other specialty codes. I had them memorized for the entire basement. 7 departments, hundreds of codes. They were formulaic per department, so once you remembered each department's formula, you just had the last 4 digits per dissection. After a while of being noted for this, I got moved from cookshop, global knives, LSE teapots, etc. into home care electricals, vacuums, pressure washers, and irons. You think a good memory is helpful for printing labels? I was like a walking thesaurus on that crap. I didn't gloat, but colleagues would use me often. Quicker to get OP than go into the office and check the catalog or Google something. Warranty info, user specs, power ratings, maintenance routines, all of it. And I enjoyed the prestige. I wasn't a dick about it. I happened to be perfectly positioned to excel in this because of my memory. I would gladly help out people rather than salesperson them if I could. That 900-pound machine, what would you use it for? Yeah, you can get that from this 100-pound machine instead. I didn't get commission, and I brought return customers who liked me helping them. People liked a passionate teenage man helping them with all of the knowledge I could muster. One woman even wrote me a letter saying she would send flowers, but didn't for fear of upsetting my wife if I had one. She was about 7 decades older than me, bless her heart, but I digress. Malicious compliance time. One day a woman came in. This was the aughts, but by today's standard, a Karen. Instant hatred of everything and everyone. My job is to help customers, so her distaste for existence and pleasure for misery really mattered not at all. She is picking up various generator irons on the shelf, inspecting them and looking out of her depth. These things can be used in-home, and some of the models we stocked you could use professionally. They started at expensive and went up to crazy money. It was pretty normal I would have to go through all of the specs for customers. If you're going to part with 249 pounds for an iron, you want to know what you are getting for your money. I get it. So I walk over to her to help. "Anything I can help you with today, madam?" She looks at me like I'm a fart that has just gotten into an elevator with her. "I want to buy an iron." Way to state the obvious, but the customer is always right, so I smile and go on. "What type of iron are you looking for? Are you using it at home or professionally?" "It is for me to use. I am the woman of the household." Now, the way she stressed woman wasn't a gripe at her lot in life. It was more like when someone reminds you that this is their turf, their specialty, their baby. Hey, no problem by me. I'll see if I can help with that. No problem at all. This model here is normally used commercially, and you cannot access the water tank. Since it generates such a lot of pressure, you have to buy these CalStop cartridges to prevent limescale buildup. Otherwise, the machine can break and won't be covered by your warranty. The benefit is the dry steam boost function for doing dresses, curtains, etc. without soaking them. By comparison, this one has a cartridge water chamber, which is easier to manage. However, yeah, can you get me a woman? Perplexed, I wonder what I said wrong. I needn't wait long to find out. She saw the look on my face and went on, "It's just a woman really gets these things. You clearly wouldn't know." I am chanting in my head, "Customer is always right," and managing my breathing to stay composed. "No problem, madam. Allow me to get my colleague Doreen to help you then." Now, the department was built around a big pillar, irons on the east face, vacuums on the south and west face, till and accessories on the north face. So I walked around the corner to the till and got Doreen to go help this delightful woman who decided I didn't know what I was talking about. I headed around to the west face to cover vacuums. Not 2 minutes later, I hear Doreen heading towards me saying, "Honestly, you need my colleague. They are the absolute expert on irons and they know so much more about them than me. They will be able to find you the perfect iron." That woman's face as she realized it was me she was being brought to as the expert on irons was priceless. She fumbled a quick question on a Morphy Richards unit to justify coming back to me, and then quickly hit the escalator to get the heck away from the awkward she had generated. Gee, it's really too bad that Karen got all steamed up when she asked for a female but instead needed Iron Man. I bet that whole interaction got her a little hot under the collar, and I hope she didn't wrinkle her skirt on the way out. Check out both OPs linked in the description down below. I thank you for watching. I hope you have a wonderful day, and we'll see you tomorrow.